2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. It is a meaningless game, at least on our side of the fence, although John Harbaugh will be selling it through the holidays as something other. It is a meaningful game for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they come to Baltimore to, we can wreck their new year. We'll see how it goes. Ed Bouchette has covered the Pittsburgh Steelers for 30 some years. I don't know how many. He always makes time for us, even on the holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating, Ed. I guess from the Steelers' perspective, you're celebrating coming to Baltimore, trying to get into the playoffs, sort of the scratch and claw method this year for the Steelers, huh?
Yeah, you mentioned the Ravens could ruin their New Year's. Actually, the Steelers have done a good job doing that on themselves, Nestor. You know, they've lost the last 2 games, in position to win both of them, but they get a pass this year because of what's going on, especially at quarterback.
Well, I mean, is it a pass or, where is it? I mean, look, Tomlin gets trouble when he wins 14 games. So, I don't know where the upheaval would be, but it's pretty obvious that I would almost say he's coach of the year if they win the last 2 games, right? They're that depleted in so many ways when you consider Bell and Brown and all the guys that have been gone. It's a pretty representative effort that they can even beat the JV team and get into the tournament. I don't think they can win the tournament, but it really would be something if they get in the tournament, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be something if they make the playoffs. Even at 8-8, I mean, everything that's happened to them this year, you're starting for, 4 or 5 games, a guy nobody even signed after the draft. Never mind, wasn't drafted. Nobody signed him after the draft. He had to make it as a tryout with the Steelers. I'm talking about Devlin Duck Hodges, who probably is going to start in Baltimore because Mason Rudolph's hurt again.
There's been a bunch of noise about Kaepernick or about whatever the circumstance would be to get a better quarterback. You've witnessed this for the last 15 weeks or thereabouts. What have they exhausted all resources? Because certainly they want to make the playoffs. They're there. Why are they playing with Duck, whatever his name is? Why?
Well, first of all, he was 3-0 as a starter until his game against Buffalo, which they were, again, in position to win. Kaepernick, 2 reasons. I think most every team in the NFL will tell you this. The Steelers went through enough drama the previous 2 years. I don't think they wanted any more.
Well, the Ravens felt that way after Ray Rice, too. So when it was the Ravens' turn in line 2 years ago when they could have signed him even before the London knee, then the pig socks come out and the girlfriend in Atlanta. I mean, there was always something. And I don't like blackballing anyone. I've been blackballed by the Baltimore Orioles for the last 14 years. I know what that's all about. I know what media intimidation and suppression.
You're not missing anything there.
No, I know. I haven't missed much. But knowing all of that, there is a point where you look on the field and say, you're doing this with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Could they have done better? That not even with Kaepernick, just in general, where they were with a 30 quarterback and not having a real chance if anything goes down with him, right?
Yeah, I mean, at what point with Kaepernick? I mean, middle of the season, you'd have to introduce him to the offense and all that other stuff, too. They did sign early on Paxton Lynch, who was a first-round draft pick of the Denver Broncos in 2016, so he's on their roster, but he hasn't played. It
says a lot about him and the Denver Broncos, right? And a talent evaluation that he can't crack a lineup at this point, right?
Well, you might see him playing in Baltimore on Sunday. I don't know that he's going to start, but if Mason Rudolph doesn't go, I mean, they've gone to Paxton Lynch, or not in that order, Duck Hodges and Paxton Lynch. And if Duck plays the way he has the last 2 games, at some point you probably see Lynch.
He is Ed Bouchette. He has been doing it up in Pittsburgh longer than just about anyone. You can follow him out on Twitter and through the holidays as well. Some observations on Lamar. I mean, the last time you and I chatted, Lamar was just like a guy with a number 8 who was a running back trying to be a quarterback and, a 500 guy. This last 2 months, watching this from the inside, you're watching it from the outside. Any thoughts or observations? I mean, you witnessed Cordell Stewart do some interesting things there and sort of shake things up. And obviously there's been such stability with the Steelers, but it certainly feels like this Lamar Jackson thing is going to put the Ravens in a different place over the next couple of years for everybody in the division.
At midseason, I had him as my MVP. Not that I'm voting, but when people asked me about the division this year before the season started, it was Cleveland or Pittsburgh, and I said, don't forget the defending champs. Baltimore won this thing last year with a rookie quarterback, and I don't know that anybody envisioned that he was going to be this good this fast. And if they did, then they should have had money on it. My question is twofold. One, how long can he keep playing the way he's playing? And I don't mean good, I mean running. And two, because that's going to catch up to him eventually. It has to, either older age when he can't run like that. We saw that with Ben. And he wasn't the runner, of course, but that Lamar is. Two, and I've seen him throw the ball. I think he's going to be a good passer, but that's what he's going to have to develop more. I think is staying in the pocket. Not at this point; it's working for him, but sooner or later as he ages, and I don't mean real old either. 4 or 5 years, he's going to have to over that span. They tried to do that with Cordell Stewart; it just didn't work with him. But I think it could with Lamar.
Ed, for you with the Steelers this year, give me the upside on all of this, because they might come in, they might win, and then they might be playing next week, and then you might see them again too. I mean, the Steelers have some sort of like the character in Halloween, right? With the knitting sticks, right? Like the Steelers are never dead, even after, to your point, the last couple of weeks sort of regressing and backing up a little bit, maybe to where they belong, quite frankly, but they are 1-1 away from coming in and beating RG3 and being a playoff team, right?
Well, yeah, they need help.
Need help now, correct.
Tennessee to lose in Houston now. I saw a graphic. Steelers now, they were tied going in yesterday, second most close games in the NFL this year, touchdown or less, 10. And somebody had 11. I'm not sure who that was. And it's been going on like that for 3 straight years. It seems like every game is coming down to the end. And you can point to a number of games they could have, should have won, but they didn't. Last year, Baltimore ruined their chances at the playoffs by beating Cleveland. Had Cleveland won that game in the last game, Steelers would have been in the playoffs. And could come down to it again this year. Baltimore ruining the Steelers' playoffs by winning in Baltimore. Only this time it's against the Steelers. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs, but it would certainly be, as you mentioned, a big feather in their cap if they did make them.
Well, and from a motivational standpoint, it's not hard to get the kids motivated during the holidays this week with sort of everything on the line and a real bad taste. What's happened the last couple of weeks to sort of tear the thing apart there? I mean, Sunday's an ugly loss. I mean, the Jets thing and now needing help and all of that. How did they lose to the Jets on Sunday? What happened?
Well, they scored 1 touchdown a game, and you're not going to win in this league scoring 1 touchdown a game. I don't care if you had the 76 Steelers defense, although maybe if you did, but they wouldn't be as dominant because the rules have changed. The defense was helping them out there for a while, scoring touchdowns. They even scored 1 on special teams with a punt return. But the last couple of weeks that hasn't happened. They did come up with a big defensive turnover that helped them tie the game before the half after falling behind 10-0 to the Jets, but in the end, they just didn't have enough. Rudolph looked good, and then bang, he gets hurt with a shoulder injury. Duck comes in, and they didn't do anything. In fact, they were in field goal position 3 separate times, 3 separate series, and were pushed back and didn't score. So that's how it's been with this offense.
TJ Watt, we talk so much about Lamar Jackson and the emergence and obviously the weight of having the really famous brother. Certainly defensively, they are good enough to come in here without Lamar Jackson and probably bottle the Ravens up a little bit on Sunday. I mean, this could be one of those 20-17 sort of classic Ravens-Steelers games on Sunday. Certainly nothing at stake on our side other than trying to get out of the game clean. But from the Pittsburgh perspective, the defense is where it leads from, right? It's been a real good year for their defense in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, it's really changed. It's flip-flopped, and I'm thinking more 10-7 on Sunday. It's really flip-flopped. You know, they had the so-called killer bees, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Ben Roethlisberger, even Martavis Bryant for a little while. And, I mean, they were high-flying offense, and their defense was just not very good, not up to Steelers standards. And it's just flipped. I mean,
well, also the money they spent on the other side of the ball, right? I mean, you had three guys that literally were top of class to be paid as skill position players on the offense, and then obviously the tragic injury 2 years ago. You know, that kind of made the seesaw get a little crazier the last couple of years, I think, right?
Yeah, the injury to Ryan Shazier really set them back. Not only did they were still rebuilding, now they had to go find another Shazier, and that's what they did this year, to give up draft picks to get Devin Bush in the draft, number 10. They gave up a first-round pick, something they haven't traded away in 52 years, for Minka Fitzpatrick, the safety that really was the final piece to the puzzle here. And they've gotten Joe Hayden for several years. He helped them, and they just added a couple more free agents to the mix, along with Bush and Fitzpatrick, and bang, they've got two of their picks. Their top two first and second rounders can't get on the field. Artie Burns, and they're both in their fourth year, and Sean Davis from Maryland. Davis has been hurt, but he'll be gone after this year, as will Artie Burns. Artie Burns has been inactive for a couple games, the last couple games.
Ed Bouchette, senior writer at The Athletic in Pittsburgh, celebrating the holidays this week. The Steelers are coming down to play a meaningless game on our side, a very meaningful game on their side. And I guess the question for you, going on from that night in Georgia with Ben Roethlisberger, is how much longer with Ben Roethlisberger? And my wife actually insulted him last week, saw him on the sideline. She said, he looks old and fat, and I know he isn't shaving his beard, and he kind of has this, he's doing the clipboard thing at this point. I won't count him out, and you're around him a whole lot more. I sort of expect him to show up in training camp next year, right?
Oh, no doubt. And, there's it's hard to stay in shape when you have your elbow in a virtual cast. It's not a cast. It's one of those contraptions, but, you can't work out, can't do a whole lot. He'll be back in shape. The question is, Esther, and they say the elbow is going to be, fine, but you have to look at it. 38. He'll be 38 when he comes back next year, coming off elbow surgery. That's requiring, it's going to require a lot of rehab, physical therapy. And who's to say it won't happen again or something else at 38? When you get up in the age, those injuries come often, a little more often usually, except for number 12 up there in New England.
We all should be eating avocado ice cream, apparently, right? And married to Giselle, I guess. For the tournament and where you are with the Ravens and seeing this 22-year-old boy wonder do all of this stuff and seeing the Yondas and the Ingrams and these veteran guys and the way DeCosta's gone out and brought Marcus Peters to bring a little attitude and all that, you buying what the Ravens are selling? I mean, I know you're going to be in Miami at the Super Bowl. I see you every year. We drink some of Mr. Goodell's free wine from time to time. You expect it to be all purple down in Miami in 4 weeks?
I do. They're my Super Bowl pick right now. Just what they've done, how they've developed over the course of the year. And you mentioned early on that Mike Tomlin should get some votes for Coach of the Year. My hands down winner is Harbaugh. I mean, what they've done, how they've developed. Let's not forget that team with Mason Rudolph and Duck almost lost to the Steelers in Pittsburgh. You could say should have lost to the Steelers in Pittsburgh. They lost at home to Cleveland.
badly.
How far they've come since then has been tremendous.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to see anything like 11 in a row and me sitting at the top of the LA Memorial Coliseum when it's 38-6 in the third quarter. I mean, there have been blowout victories. There's been all of that. But and I even reference this because you've been around the Steelers a long time. Back when I really hated the Steelers back in the 90s, year after year, I'd come up there and they'd struggle with Jim Harbaugh to win a championship game. They lose to the San Diego Chargers in they lost to Tom Brady. They lost to Denver at one point in Elway in Pittsburgh. The Steelers really struggled with home court advantage for a period of time during the Cowher era. Peyton Manning didn't win a whole lot in January for having taken the last week or two off many times in Indianapolis. Sometimes the downtime, the off time, it can come and get you. I'm not as worried about the Ravens. I think they're the better football team, but there is a little part of Brady or Mahomes coming in here that, those teams are formidable teams.
Yes, but you don't want to be playing Lamar Jackson in a meaningless game against a team that has a good defense, good pass rush that is trying to make the playoffs. So I think you have little choice, at least at that position, but to not play him. I've seen it, and strange is Bill Cowher really that's a mark on his record that on one hand he made all those AFC title games, on the other hand he lost them all at home, and then he became the first 6th seed to go on the road and win 3 games, no bye week, and then win the Super Bowl. So maybe there is something to it. I don't know. I don't know that there's been enough studies done on it, Nestor, but I still think having that number 1 seed and trying to decide whether to rest them or play them is really the best choice you can have.
Well, I don't have to get up early in the morning and drive through Breezewood and bring buses up there for playoff games, as I've done so many times. Y'all come down here. We'll try to curdle your eggnog here through the weekend. It's not hard for us to get lathered up about the Steelers here this week, but at least a meaningful football game that's been flexed out to the 425. I will make sure you do not have any tourist crab cakes as you come down here, Ed. Always good to have you on. Enjoy the holiday with your family. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, Nestor, and you won't see me Sunday. I had a couple back surgeries over a 5-day period, and I'm taking it a little easy right now.
Well, you've been carrying Pittsburgh sports fans for 40 years. No wonder your back hurts, Take care of yourself. Get well. Happy holidays to you. We'll see you at the Super Bowl, all right?
All right, Nestor, take care.
I'll be the one wearing purple. Ed Bouchette, he is at The Athletic. No one covers the Pittsburgh Steelers like Ed does, even when his back hurts. So, Ed, take the week off. I'll have a crab cake for you. I'll send some home your way, especially if the Steelers earn themselves a trip to Houston or some other Kansas City or wherever it's going to be for next week. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We are researching and doing all things Super Bowl in Miami. You can email me, nasty at WNST.net. I've been talking about it on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram. I'm a little excited. I've got Super Bowl fever. We all do. It's a Festivus for the rest of us. Happy Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Merry New Year. Do all that good stuff this week. We'll see you down at the stadium on Sunday. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Lamar Jackson and Super Bowl fever.